Maureen. Maureen and I have talked about doing this for a few years now, so it's really exciting to be here. And thank you so much, all of you, for being here, especially on Valentine's night. What do you think of when you hear the word quilt? Is there an heirloom passed down in your family? Is it a worn-out pile of fabric that your dog sleeps on? If you're a quilter, you probably think of fabric because there's so many beautiful choices for fabric available today. I'm not very good with my phone. Is it working okay? Can everybody hear me, first of all? Okay. If you can't, just do this, if you would. We quilters tend to have a little bit of a love affair with fabric, and we might collect a little bit more than we need. So if you know a quilter, be generous about that. You may think that pretty inexpensive quilt from Stein Martyr and Pottery Barn is the kind that we're talking about tonight, but it's not. Those are manufactured. Even if they're made by hand, they're made in great quantities. And there's quite a controversy in the United States because a lot of the American designers have their designs stolen and then manufactured in China. So think carefully before you buy one of those. Those are not the drawers we're looking for. We're talking about quilts that are made one at a time with care, with intention, and as an expression of an idea or an emotion, just exactly like a poem is. A quilt is a poem made of fabric. It begins with a beautiful thought, fashioned from clothes of your childhood or made from materials bought. Each quilt is a story, a picture in time. It could come from your grandma or mother. Someone pieced together some beauty to share and then pass it on to another. A quilt speaks of happiness, memories, dreams. It can show hearts or flowers or fish. The vision is yours, from the color and cloth you created however you wish. You can stitch it up cozy to snuggle up tight or feature a beautiful view. If the texture and shapes of it give you delight, it's done all a quilt's meant to do. If you gather the fabric, the needle and thread, to create your unique work of art, you are part of the quilters, the circle of quilters in time, as you quilt out the poem in your heart. I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to quilting. I grew up in a family where art was a big part of our daily lives. My mother was an artist. She was a painter and a sculptor and did all sorts of artistic things. And making art was something that was encouraged. It was like, you don't want to play, you don't want to do your chores, go do some art. That's fine. So that was pretty exciting. The other thing that my mother did was she grew up with a depression, so she really knew how to sew well and how to utilize every little bit of everything. So she taught me that. Sometimes when I didn't even want to learn, she made me learn. I'm really glad that I did now. One of my funny childhood memories is coming home from school to the odd aroma of thick slabs of acrylic baking in the oven because my mother was making sculpture out of them. That's a smell you never forget. At our house, we made absolutely everything. We sewed everything. We sewed the curtains, we sewed our clothes, anything that could be sewn, we did. But we never made quilts. It never occurred to us to make quilts. It was just not on our radar. We had a few heirloom quilts we thought were beautiful, but that was not something I was interested in at all, nor was my mother. So, I think I thought it was a little bit repetitive and maybe a little bit old fogey-ish, in my 20s. So that was just something that didn't happen. One thing I did do was I used to make batik. Batik is like you take white fabric, you draw on it with wax, and then you dip it in the fabric and it dyes it. And those little white lines I noticed, I thought, that'd be kind of fun to sew along those. So I made some quilts, but they weren't really quilts, of course. I sewed along those lines and sewed some of those, and I thought that was pretty cool. Well, I had several different jobs, and I was always doing artistic things, whatever I could find to do. Still sewing everything. My kids can attest everything they had was something I made. And one day I got a call from a friend of mine who had another friend who owned a publishing company. And it was Symbol of Excellence in Birmingham, where we lived. And she was looking for 2 cross-stitch designers. Well, that was a pretty exciting thought, even though I knew absolutely nothing about cross-stitch. I'd never done it. I didn't know anything about it. So I called the company and made an appointment for my interview 4 days from that day. In 4 days, I learned everything I could possibly learn about cross stitch. I taught myself how to do it. I learned about the history. I studied it, everything. And I had designs to show them by the time I got there for the 4th day. Well, that was kind of interesting. But it turned out to be a wonderful thing. I did design cross stitch for several years with them. I also did a lot of sewing. I could finish projects and things. And I think that was also what helped me get the job. The publishing company is now called Hoffman Media. And if you know Southern Lady Magazine, Phyllis Hoffman is the publisher of that, and she's the lady that I work for. So it was a fabulous job, really wonderful. I enjoyed it so much. You can imagine 8 hours a day getting to do something, creative like that and getting paid for it. Unbelievable. About the 2nd year in, they bought a quilting magazine, McCall's Quilting, and they brought it to Birmingham. Or they were going to bring it to Birmingham. And Phyllis asked the designers, does anybody know anything about quilting? Well, I sort of raised my hand. I know a little bit about it. So guess what I did for the next few days? I wound up on quilting. I did everything I could think of to really immerse myself in it. I read all sorts of books. And at that point, that's when I fell in love with quilting. I went, oh my goodness, this is so much more than I had thought it was a long, long time ago. So I worked there for several years, and then Bill and I decided that his working in Atlanta and me being in Birmingham and him coming home on the weekends was not a really good situation. So we moved over here, and it's been a great move. We were in Peachtree City for 5 years, and then we moved here to Senoia in 2000, and it's just been wonderful to be here. I have a studio that I don't even deserve. Most people don't deserve it. It's really, really nice and big. But Bill built me that, and it's been great to be able to teach and have people over and just enjoy quilting, sewing, anything creative there. So I want to give you a little overview about quilting in case you don't know. You might know everything about it, but you might not know. Quilting is, literally, it is taking 3 layers of fabric, mostly fabric. I've fudged this a little bit. And sewing through it. It could be by hand, it can be by machine, either one. That's quilting. Also, quilting refers to kind of the whole universe of the people who do quilting, the people who sell the supplies for it, the people who have put on shows and everything. That's kind of, it's a bigger universe than you would imagine. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. And there are huge quilt shows every year. There are quilts, the kind of quilts that I do, which are the ones that go on the wall, are called art quilts or studio quilts. And it doesn't take anything away from the beautiful bed quilts that we all appreciate, especially the fabulous antique ones. It's just another thing, it's just an addition to quilting. Those shows have prizes that are $15,000 or $20,000 for the winning quilt, and there'll be several of those in the show. I mean, it's serious business. And I know of a quilt that sold for a number of years ago for $30,000. Wow. A quilt. So, and it didn't go on the bed either. There are a couple of types of quilting that are the kind of the basis for it. One of them is called piecing or patchwork, where you two pieces of paper, excuse me, 2 pieces of fabric stitched together, and then you add on and make it bigger. Okay, so that's called piecing. And then the other kind is after. I'll show you in a minute. All right, this is about as traditional as I get with my piecing. This is I think it's just called 1,000 pyramids. These are triangles. And of course I had to make some little holes and make it a little interesting, and I marbled and painted that fabric. That's cool. This is another thing you can do with traditional blocks. When you want to know if something is pieced or applique, pieced means it's got little seams in it like this, and it's stitched together. Very often it actually is a square. Even though it may look like a curvy thing, the actual block is a little square. This is called Drunkard's Path. So it's got like a solid square here and then a curved square here.
Do you want that one, Pastor?
Okay. This is another thing you can do with just piecing. The stars are applique, but all of this is just pieced. So you can use it like a mosaic and design it that way. And then you just put the little squares and triangles and everything together, and it comes out with a shaped figure. This is another example of piecing that kind of went in a different direction. So all these are pieced together. They're on straight edges, and then when you quilt it, it gives it a little bit of a different look. These are applique. These are Applique means to apply. It's a French word, means to apply. So if something is applied to the fabric, it's going to be applique to it. I'm not sure. Okay, this is an example of applique. This is something I made when I worked for the magazine. These are things that would be really hard to piece those into little squares. So this is done with freezer paper, actually. You put it inside of it. When I was a kid, I saw applique bridge cloths and things like that, and it just looked like the fabric was magically sticking onto the other fabric. And I thought, how can that be? What is in it? I didn't understand. I couldn't see how it was sewn. This is how this is done, and it's a really fun technique, and it's not even difficult to do. But anyway, so when you see things like this, you'll know that those are applique. This is another kind of applique. It's a dimensional applique. So these are just things that are just kind of scrunched up. You can hear myself. These are things that are just kind of scrunched up or shaped and then scrunched up and applied to the surface. They're stitched down. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't mean to be leaving you out in there. Got it. Another kind of applique, which is kind of fun, is done with either netting or tulle. So what happens here is, this is a piece of felt underneath it. You just take the things and lay them on there.
You're fine.
Okay. And then you put a piece of, this is a piece of net, and then you just stitch around each piece and it holds it in place. So the net is what's holding it in place.
Cool. Okay.
Another kind of applique that's very popular today is called fusible applique. And what that means is there's a glue that you apply to the back of the fabric and then you iron it on and it stays in place. This allows you to do things that would be really, really difficult if you had to do them the old-fashioned way. And then you can stitch on top of them once they're secured. And give us more. This is called Sylvan Sampler. And this, you can see they're pieced areas. You see the little rectangles and squares. Those are pieced. And then the rest of it is applique on there. And it's just enough of the applique. You can walk in there.
We need to put her on a ladder. She can hold on. I'll be right back. I got a broken back.
Claudia, how long does this piece take to make?
I'd say a few weeks, really. You know, they're not huge. I do not have a long attention span. My family can tell you. So I don't work huge. This is about as big as I get. This is another example of dimensional applique. You see how it sticks out. And this whole thing was pieced and then appliqued onto the background. This is pieced here, and these are pieced. And then those little things are appliqued on.
Oh.
So see, combining them, it gives you a lot more flexibility in what you can do.
Oh, cool.
And then it's pulled in the background.
I could do this.
Another thing that I think is really fun is a trend today. It's been a trend for a few years, but cool. It's printing a photograph onto fabric and then using it. And I'm sure you guys have seen some of these tools. This is one from my family. My sweet son and daughter-in-law are here tonight, and they're on here. This is before the grandchildren. But this is a fun way to, kind of preserve your memories and have it on the quilt. And this one is meant to go on the wall also. Sorry, Raj, I know you're going to be embarrassed by some of those pictures. And this one is another, yes, if you hold it to the inside, yeah, perfect. This is another one. This is a picture of my granddaughter, Millie. And it's done with the same technique, where you run the fabric through your printer and it prints it out, and then you can do whatever you want to after that. This is a thing called printed treasures. This is what I use when I make these things. It's a little expensive, maybe $3 or $4 a sheet, but it's well worth it. Here's another example of what you can do with that. This is a photograph here in the center that was printed out, that I took and printed out. and then stitched on it, and then just kind of shaped the quilt around it.
Oh, there's yo-yos.
Yeah, yo-yos are in there too. And have a little nod to the traditional sometimes. So people who know me know that I absolutely love recycled things. I love to use, I know I should be saying upcycle now instead of recycle, but it used to be recycle was the only word we had. So I kind of got into the habit of using that. But upcycling things is one of my great loves, and my granddaughter is going to attest to that. This is a very traditional little quilt, but what it's made with is little pieces of junk that really anybody would throw away. When you're quilting and you're cutting the bits that don't fit off, that's what all those little blocks are. And then I put a little piece of tulle over each one and made it into a little tiny quilt. So that's a very easy beginning exercise for upcycling things. I love to paint on fabric also. This is an example of painting on fabric. And the upcycle thing is, this is a vegetable bag. Like this stuff that you're thinking for vegetables come in. It is fabulous because it holds things down to the surface, and then you can sew around them or over them or whatever, and there they stay. And these are little pieces. You know how you have silk flowers that you think, what am I going to do with these? You can always pull them off and paint them. I just painted them and then sew them to a quilt. They're underneath the vegetable fabric. Another thing that I do is most quilters will wash their fabric when they get it home because there's a little bit of formaldehyde on the fabric when you get it. And so because the edges are cut, it's always going to have some raveling. Well, this stuff is great. It is wonderful to make things out. All the ladies that have little pink red hearts on tonight, they all have some of this in their little heart pins. Another thing I love is
Right here, see the onion?
if you have dryer sheets that you use and then you're going to throw them away, you don't have to throw them away. You can wash them and then take them. And then you cut these up and use them for whatever you want. Dryer sheets, some of those too. And this is yes, you wash them. After you take dryer sheets, wash them. They will not go apart. Wash them to get all the dryer, the softener out of them. And then you can paint them. What I actually do is whenever I paint with something, I take a dryer sheet. I have a whole bunch of them that are all clean. And I just wipe the paint out. After I'm finished painting, I wipe the paint out with the dryer sheet, and then I spread it out to dry. And then you have something that, goes on. It doesn't go to the landfill. This is one of those sheets that you put, it's called a color catcher. If you have some things that might be fading in fabric or clothing, whatever. Then you have another thing you can use that's got color in it. I use these all.
Yeah, you teach your class just on your
This is the remains of the donation quilt in here. Just little bits and pieces that I cut off the edges to square it up. It's going to go into a quilt anyway. And the donation quilt is not a quilt to go on the wall, by the way. It's just to make, to just enjoy and get cozy in. That's what that is, even though it's hanging on the wall tonight.
Can we put it on the wall if we want?
You certainly could.
I'm planning on winning it.
They're great things to use to recycle. If you look at that pink quilt over there on the wall, those couple things are corks.
Oh, I wonder what to do with them. There you go. Corks.
Oh,
God, we're going to start
part of it is
with what?
baby wipes. I only use baby wipes. But they're interactive. Just another textile to use, to recycle.
I gotta get started.
Everybody told you judged me about this. If you get organic eggs, they come in a carton like this, right? Okay.
Yeah.
These things make fabulous palettes. The girls and I always paint in the bottom of these palettes as a palette. And then what is left is paint like this, but you turn it around and you can cut that little piece out and it makes a beautiful little button on the quilt. Shoot. That one right behind you is made that way.
Oh, look, back here. See the real thing.
that was just made up of plastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of my husband. He's already something totally too much like that.
That was really fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this one needs to make the round.
Well, you know how I told you, I kind of pushed the envelope as far as the 3 layers of fabric. So sometimes the layers of fabric are, maybe there are 3 layers, but then they might have a little plastic on top of them. This is just another way, a fun way of recycling, or recycling. This has a vegetable bag, you can see. This is a yellow vegetable bag. It's got little bits of just plastic that I found around. Plastic bags of bright colors are great to use. And you can also heat it up, but you don't want to do that in a well-ventilated area. But you can heat it up with an iron and create something like that. And this is also, it's got 3 layers. This is the 4th layer, but it is stitched. And this is completely melted black and blue plastic bags, little bits of fabric, and then some vegetable bag on top of that.
And when you're ironing the vegetable bags, you can put something
You
really
want to put some
red.
like there's paper that you can, a resistant paper that will not stick to anything. It's not, well, yeah, parchment will work. I'm sorry, yes, it is parchment. That will work. Yeah, I personally believe that anything can be an inspiration for a quilt. I want to show you this. And also, a quilt does not have to be square, clearly. This is a little lid that I bought at the estate sale of Tom McKeon. Tom McKeon was a really wonderful guy who lived here. He worked very hard in the Historical Society. And he was a real mover and doer here. Nancy Roy can tell you that. And anyway, this was all I have found, and I thought, I've got to do something with that. I got to do some kind of tribute. So I decided to use just some scraps of fabric. This is blue jean. I use a lot of blue jeans too, and just stamped and painted and made that as a tribute to Tom. So if you're thinking, oh, I could not possibly make a quilt because I am not good at straight lines, don't even worry about it. This is one that I call, this is, you know what antimacassars are? This is called Auntie's Macassar. And these are, I had bought these at an estate sale somewhere, and they were just sitting around. I couldn't let go of them because the colors, I love the colors. So I took, this is a pair of pants that didn't fit anymore. These are, the green that you see is a sweater that I felted by, putting in the washing machine and you make it shrink. These are, of course, as you can see, the little crochet bits. And these are blue jean, the strips of the sides of blue jeans that I had dyed. And then these are just some leftover fabrics that I had. So it makes kind of a nice thing. And I tell my students, if you want your quilts to be taken seriously, sometimes you need to put them on a canvas. So I do that a lot. I put a lot of things on a canvas because then you can just hang it right on the wall and it's art. This one, another one like that. This is called Undersea. Anybody see what that's made of right there? It's the leg of a blue jean. That's the basis of it right here. And I dyed it that color, so it looked nice. This was some fabric that I'd had for about 40 years. I finally decided to do something with it. This was just something that I ripped off the edge of something else. These are little pieces of felted wool. Felting is something else that I kind of experiment with. And I had to stamp and paint on it a little bit just to give it a little more pizzazz, and then put it on canvas so that the leg of the jeans could be taken seriously. One more aspect of my coaching is the poem quilts. There are 3 poem quilts in there. I don't know if you had a chance to see those. I was interviewing, when I worked for the magazines in Birmingham, I was interviewing a lady, and she had the most interesting quilts. They were fabulous, and I noticed that it had writing all over them. She said, yeah, these are my poems. I said, well, why did you decide to put writing in your poem? And she said, well, someday I'm going to be gone, and if I just have these poems, poems on pieces of paper, my kids are going to just throw it directly in the garbage. But if it's on a quilt, it'll be harder to get rid of. So I thought, that's kind of brilliant. So I thought, I'm going to take a page from her. So I love to do writing on my quilt, and the way I do it is usually with something called a Pigma Micron. These are archival ink pens, and if you want to write on fabric and have it last, this is a great way to do it. I recommend it highly. This is a form that I did, and I just pieced this together in kind of a random, fun way. Most of it is hand-dyed fabric, not dyed, and I just kind of experimented with the quilting, just having a good time. And then again, I like making holes in my quilt. If you have a favorite Bible verse, this is a great way to do a Bible verse and just hang it on your wall, and you can, be inspired by it all the time. This is Philippians 4:8 is my favorite. Whatever's true, whatever's honorable, whatever's right. So that's a good way to do a form quilt that's someone else's form, not ours. And then this one is not really a form quilt. It is, but it's something that I use to inspire myself whenever I'm running a little dry in the well of inspiration. But anyway, this is called Beanstalk Wisdom, and I'll show you the back too. The back is it's got a lot of dimensional stuff on it, and it has little sayings like make someone smile with your art, or do something different, feel blessed and be grateful, make your best effort, things like that. Just if you need to be inspired, that's a good way to inspire yourself, to have something hanging on the wall that you can enjoy and look at.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
When you hold that, one up and so there's obviously there's two sides to it, but you see the stitching, some on the front, but you see a lot on the back.
Yes, you see it on the back.
How do you? Will you tell everybody how do you do all of that? What's that process?
That is done by machine. I'm glad you asked that question. The way that I do it, I don't have a long arm machine. So when I'm stitching anything, when I'm quilting anything on the machine, I am pushing the fabric around like that. I have little gloves that have rubber on the ends, and you have to move all that fabric had to be moved around in order to get that stitching. So the machine stays there and you move. If you have a long arm machine, you move the head of the machine and it will do it. So this is a little more challenging to do, but that's how I get that done. And it's a lot of fun. Kind of hard on the shoulders, but kind of fun.
So none of your stuff is long arm?
No.
That's pretty impressive.
These are, you can see from just what we talked about, this is a piece quilt, simple. That's a paper piece quilt. That one is applique. The one in the back with the circles on it is pieced, all the strips are pieced, and then the circles are pieced together and applique. The one at the back is pieced, and then it has the little buttons made from the bottom of the egg cartons and vegetable bag and a bunch of stuff on there and painted. These over here on this wall are done with something called rust dyeing, which is really fun. If you ever get rust on an old shirt, it's never going to come out. So it's a pretty effective way to dye things. You just use water and salt and put the thing in there and just shape it around a nail or any kind of metal piece that you have, and you get a pretty fun result from it. So that's what those are from. And I have recycled elements. I have rose sticks. That was from another Valentine's Day. My husband gave me roses, and I couldn't save the roses, but I could save the stems. So I painted the stem and I put them in that quilt right there. The quilt over there, the second one, the shorter one, is it has the nails that I used to dye the fabric in those little plastic bags that I made out of recycled plastic, of course. Put those on it.
Did you just lay the nails on there with it wet?
Yes, with it wet. And you have to leave it a couple of days. But it will work so well. It's pretty amazing what it'll do. The quilt in the hall is one that I made as a tribute to my mother, and it was in a show that traveled around. It went to France, Chicago, Lowell, Massachusetts, and Houston. So it's kind of a fun thing that I really am happy with. what I hope that you leave with tonight is that we can appreciate beautiful antique quilts, but we can also appreciate modern stuff as well. And now you know that a quilt does not have to be on a bed to be a quilt. 3 layers, all it takes, 3 layers and some stitching. There's a wide world out there of beautiful, beautiful art being made to go on the walls, and they are quilts that are made. There are wonderful books on the history of quilts too, and you'll see the artistry of people from long ago. And very often, a quilt was the only self-expression that a woman had, because she was working all day on the farm or whatever, and at night she had they had to have those quilts so she could put her artistry into that. And I have a little poem about that. And I will just end with this. It's called Quilt Show. Quilts are full of magic. They beckon you from across the room with siren voices and little thread fingers. Come closer, come closer. Then when they get you close enough, they scream their feelings in your face. I'm laughter, bright color strips, and jazz. I've worked hard all my life. The only bright spots were my children and these tiny print hexagons I pieced together with tired, loving fingers into my one legacy of art. How do you like my garden? Flowers are my joy. See how I've stitched them just so? This is my therapy. From the chaos of my life and bits of cloth, I've pieced sweet symmetry of pattern and hue. Then as quickly as they grab you, the colors swim and swirl and let you go. There's a plaintive voice of a wall quilt just off to your right. You are captured, and the magic flows on. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I would say that wake everybody up, but I know I'm not a person with sleep. So there are books for sale. This was put together on that, and this way will be up until March 3rd, and there's raffle tickets. Just a quick message from the board. We always like to thank everybody for trusting us with Senoia's history. So not only the quilts, but if you haven't seen the museum, come back on a Friday and Saturday and look at the quilts, but also look at all the rest of the history we have here from Senoia with that. So it'll be up till March 3rd. Remember, next month's meeting is going to be where?
First Baptist Church.
There you go. Claudia.
That's not St. Patrick's Day. It's on the 14th.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. Yes, of course. I know you have a book on there. Are you going to do a book on your quilts?
I don't know. It never occurred to me.
I think you should. It would be wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
And also a wonderful memoir to your family.
Yeah, I should do it for that. Actually, yeah.
Well, thank you. Have great take pictures. Well, gosh. Put it like you have here. What's about?
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Are there any questions? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. If you have any questions, I'm going to stand there. You're going to go sit down. I'm going to sit down. That's right. And so, if you have questions, thank you so much for
For Dawn.
Thank you.